All right. Greetings and welcome back once again. This is Amuna, and you don't know already. I pray everybody is doing well. Look, new year, new me. Even though it's July, you understand what I'm saying? So we trying to push through to the end of this here book, um, so that we can have a complete series. You know what I mean? So that you don't have to drop down in the comment section talking about Amuna. Finish the book 3 years later. You understand? So with that said, we're gonna go ahead and jump into it because I got distracted earlier. And we are on chapter 9. Okay. So for those who just joined us, we are reading Evolution of a Revolutionary, Afeni Shakur's biography written by Jasmine Guy. A lot of stuff has happened. She's now in AA. You understand? She's getting clean. This is the early 90s. Her daughter forgives her son, Tupac. He's having a hard time. But she's now in AA and people are just waiting to see what's going on. But at this point, Tupac passes, right? And he spent at least 5 years with her clean. And now he has just passed, unfortunately, right? So it says the first in line to siphon Tupac's money was Billy Garland. And by the way, he read this part. He mentioned this part in his recent Art of Dialogue interview, and he was pretty pissed, right? So this is the chapter that he mentioned. So the first in line to siphon Tupac's money was Billy Garland, also known as, quote, the sperm donor, end quote. But again, I'm gonna have to, again, this is commentary. The father Tupac had never known. It's interesting that she puts that, but all through this 9 chapters, we in chapter 9, we have never heard the name Billy Garland till now. Okay, so what happened with that situation? We learned more about Lumumba, who was not his father. We learned more about Hassan in prison. We learned more about Colonel Taylor from Different World than we learned about Billy Garland. It says Tupac was 23 years old and was already famous when he met Billy for the first time in 1994. Again, Billy is saying that Tupac came to his house when he was 2 and 3 years old. He's saying that he rubbed the belly, and everybody at the Panther office knew that she was his man, and he was, they knew about the relationship. So the book saying this was the first time. When Billy goes to court, he said that he contributed $800 in a movie ticket. So something in this particular writing may not be measuring up to the reality, right? It says he was lying critically wounded when Billy showed up at his bedside. Tupac talked to him a little bit, and during the encounter, Afeni sat quietly in a corner on the carpet, giving space to her bedridden son, at the same time letting Billy know he did not have the full floor. Now, I think I went over this already, but Billy's response to this is that, like, basically she was like playing interference and not allowing him to connect. But we must also remember that in the chapter before, they said that the Shakurs prided themselves on being honest, but the fact that your father, who's a quote unquote supposed to be dead in 1994, shows up at your bedside indicates that somebody's not wholly being honest. Somebody was not being honest, and at this point, it was his mother. She wasn't telling him the full truth. Because if she was, Billy couldn't. She knew who he was. She's not like she said, "Get out of here. You're not his father." She knew who he was, but now she's kind of like making sure, monitoring that he doesn't say something that she's going to have to, answer for. It says here, oh yes, and Billy showed up again in 1996 at Las Vegas hospital where Tupac lay in a coma. Oh gosh, I don't really like wishing. If Afeni had, she had to have read the final copy of this book. And in doing so, it would have been truthful and honest to give us a little more than this little few sentences to make it look like the dude had disappeared. The dude lived in the next state over until you left New York at 13. When Tupac was 13, his father was living in Jersey, the next state over, like just over the Holland Tunnel, just over there. So, let me continue. Oh, yes, and Billy showed up again in 1996 at the Las Vegas hospital where Tupac lay in a coma. I wonder what good it does for the dying when you're there for them at the end of their lives, but you never showed up for them while they were living. Well, at this point, you turn to Afeni because at this point, she needs to answer to this. You asking questions, she right there. You should have asked her. As far as Billy Garland goes, he seemed to have popped up out of nowhere, at least from where I sat, and this is where he was offended. He was offended, but I mean, when you read it, you can realize that it's Jasmine Guy talking and not Afeni talking. When he says that you popped up, he's like, popped up. What you mean I popped up? Like I just popped up. He was mad, but let's continue. I knew of the men who had raised Tupac, who loved him. She said she heard of all the stories about Tupac's Uncle Tom, his stepfather Matulu, but she never heard the name Billy Garland mentioned. Well, that's at this point, you're supposed to turn to Afeni. Turns to the left. You know what I mean? At this point, you're supposed to turn to Afeni. Even in writing this part, you needed to turn to her. Because the fact that you never heard Billy Garland and she's telling the story, that's the person who's accountable to clear this part up. You wanted to clear up the timeline and what happened with the Panthers. She's the one who intentionally left this out. Says, I had heard all of the when Tupac was a baby stories, and Billy Garland's name had never came up or come up. Legs was mentioned. This tough, colorful street dude who respected Afeni and loved her little boy took him to the barbershop at McDonald's and called him his son. She heard about Legs, but not Billy Garland. It was Crooksy who painted Afeni and Tupac's first bedroom when Afeni moved in with Glow. And Crooksy is the name of the lady that the cousin spoke about, who was in the jail, who wrote the Dyke paper that I showed yesterday. So I'm trying to figure out, because I'm like, did she get out of jail? Because she was in jail when Afeni was in jail. So then how did she paint the bedroom if she was still in jail? Or maybe I don't know. Because by 1974, the report is reading like she's still in jail. So again, they're saying the lady painted the bedroom. And why are you mentioning Crooksy when talking about father figures for Tupac? That's interesting. And there was Tupac's godfather, Cochise, who wrote him loving and careful letters from prison all through Tupac's growing up. Is this the same Cochise that hooked her up with Hassan, who got her lumped up in prison? Let's continue. I had heard how Glow kissed the newborn Tupac from head to toe as soon as he came out of the womb, but I had never heard stories of Billy Garland. So they erased Billy Garland from history. Right? They erased him from history. So when I heard the news that Billy Garland was making claim to Tupac's money, I wondered how this man could stand in the courtroom in front of strangers and say he was this boy's father. The fact that you're wondering means that even when you didn't turn to the person who you needed to turn to and ask these questions. Because right now, this sounds like this is you filling this in. I wonder that as I heard of this absurd lawsuit, how he could hold his head high enough to even see his way into a courtroom after not living one moment in the child's life. You heard the man say he came over to his house and was sleeping in the bunk bed. She wondered how he could have taken the tears of a grieving mother, as tough as that mother may be, and flaunt those tears in front of the judge and lawyers and say, I want some of what left for her for myself. And this is kind of what, when even I hear him talking, even though he says it's not about money, money seems to come up a lot. You know what I mean? Money seems to come up a lot. I mean, I don't know, and we still don't know. Maybe the only person who possibly knows something is the sister. Why they did not make it, and why he says he didn't know where they went. That's what he said. But from 3 to 13, they were still in New York, right? He says the party split and people went their ways. I surmise, but what he said the other day, this is Billy Garland, that he was more into the Huey Newton faction, and she was more into the Black Liberation Army faction, which was these two split. They were split. There's something that had to have happened in between that space where he stepped away from his responsibilities as a father. But let's continue. According to him, he could have did better. It's incredible that a person who has never provided anything for a child, as that child grows up, would try to take what the child has made for himself on his own. All Billy Garland ever did for Tupac was create a void, which Tupac, in all futility, searched to fill for most of his life. And that statement, I would say that statement, based on what we've observed, is true. Right? He and the mother. Remember, this is what got me here in the first place. The mother and the father created this void, both of them collectively, by filling their urges, according to what he said, and her not being honest to say, hey, this is, because even when she's calling a 17 and 18-year-old grown, why didn't she tell him then? Like, hey, your father is in Jersey. There's all that time that you could have told him. And according to his story, when he heard, he didn't know what happened to him. This is his story for those who didn't hear the story, right? Let me give you the story real quick. According to Billy Garland, they lost touch after the whole Panther Bit situation. And then they moved to Baltimore, Afeni does. And then they moved to California, and he doesn't know where anybody is. When Tupac ultimately gets in the movie, which is Juice, he says his friend calls and tells him that his son is in a movie. He goes to the movie theater, according to him. He sees him and he begins to cry because it's his son. He would have to have known about the son after his name changed, because when he was born, his name was Parrish Lashane Crooks. So for him to say your son Tupac Shakur is in a movie, that would mean that he would have to have been up to date with him after the name change, which according to the family members is like close to 2 years old. So Billy would have had to have known something about something for his friend to be like, oh, your son Tupac Shakur. It's like, my son, I ain't got no son named Tupac. My son named Lashane. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, let me continue for the sake of time. So now they're arguing about money. All Billy Garland ever did so one of the Afeni's first trials after Tupac died was to go up against Billy Garland. Fortunately, she was ready. By now, having been warned by Jada and me, she had a team. She had lawyers, Donald David, Rick Fishbin. She had an accountant, Jeffrey Joyner, who began sifting and sorting through Tupac's layers of financial madness. And she had Deliote and Tooch, the firm that audited Interscope and located Tupac's outstanding compensation. But as soon as one case was closed, another one started. But pause. So she went off on that. But according to Billy Garland, they offered him a settlement. So that case was closed because it didn't go to court or whatever. In mediation, they offered him a settlement and he took it. According to him, a lawyer came to him and said that he's the rightful father and he's entitled to the son's belongings. But also, according to him, Afeni had put on the death certificate of Tupac that the father was dead. And because the father was not dead and he was alive, he claims that on principle, he went up against her. So that part is also left out of the book, whether it was known at that time or not. Let's continue. Before long, Afeni was in court, sometimes in concurrent cases for years. Yet with each moment of adversity, she came out the wiser and the stronger. Over the years, I've left messages for Afeni, basically checking in to see if she's all right. She has left messages in return. Once she called me before she went to D.C. to start in the musical Chicago. You go on and do what you're supposed to do, she told me. I'll see you up there in Chicago. That's what you're supposed to do. You wear that stuff out, Jasmine. Don't worry about me, she says. I'm good now because I say to myself, there's a beginning, middle, and end to everything. Right now, I'm just in the middle, but I know there will be an end. Over the years, I've gone months without reaching her. My only contact would be through the secondhand updates from various assistants and family members. One time, an assistant calls me. Afeni is in LA for 2 days, she says. One day is booked with meetings and the other day in court, but she really wants to see you. Meet us at the Beverly Hills Hotel at 2:30. She has an hour before she leaves for the airport. I get there on time and Afeni is so happy to see me. I want you to see my house, I say to Afeni, disappointed she cannot stop. Forget that house. Or she say, blink that house. I need to see the baby. How is she? Afeni smiles. Running things, I answer, referring to the 3-year-old. Yep, that's what she's here to do, she chuckles. But you know I can't stay here long. I gotta get out of LA. It's been 2 days too long. Afeni hates LA and has never been back to Vegas since Tupac died. She only spends time in Northern California with the coastal city of San Francisco, where the coastal beauty of San Francisco, Sausalito, and Oakland soothe her mind. Those cities bear no sickening memories for Afeni. Those cities smell of crisp, clean, blue calm, not thick, smoggy red of grief. So what's going on now? I asked, knowing if it isn't Interscope, it's Death Row. She's either meeting or fighting. I'm not sure who's meeting Afeni at Sapago and who's meeting her at the courthouse. I look around the hotel suite for a chair. Sorry, y'all know what happens when it gets late. There are people in the room, and I know them all. They're Tupac's high school friend, Molly, who's Afeni's assistant, and a couple of guys from security. Afeni sits on her bed with her ashtray. Thanks she stays smoking, boy. She's pleased, almost bubbly. She wants to talk, which means she had a good day. I don't know what you know about the documentary film, she begins, but we had meetings today with MTV and Paramount. And can I just thank you for Carolyn Alley? Afeni looks at me, still beaming but serious. Carolyn Alley is a producer friend of mine that I met on the movie Clash in 1994. We stayed in touch and I brought her to Atlanta to coordinate Tupac's memorial, which had become a huge production. Her ease and skills proved invaluable to the Shakur family at the time, and she was an excellent first choice to run the film and book division of Afeni's new company, Amaru Entertainment. You're welcome, I say to Afeni. She's a beautiful person. Blink that, Afeni says, lighting a Newport. She's a grown, blink woman, and it's a hell of a thing to have a grown woman on the team. Afeni's a grown woman too, but I know what she means. Carolyn is confident, articulate, and worldly. Let me drink some of my tea here. She knows how to pitch. She knows how to talk on the phone. She knows how to conduct business without carrying the weight of her personal problems into the office. She knows how to talk to all kinds of people, white, black, young, brother or sassy sister, family members, business associates, money folk, or moody artists. And just in case she needs to ever arise, she can be the bee if she has to. Okay. I'm so proud we are partners, Afeni goes on. On this MTV project, they get real humbled by us because they always start out thinking we don't know what we're talking about, but we do. They start out thinking we're arrogant, and we're not. We just do our work. We stay focused and do what we say we're going to do. And I'm so proud of that. Afeni's on a roll. We never argue with them. We just blinking work because we are so good, efficient workers. We always catch them at the end and show them a piece of paper. I'm so proud of my team. And at the end of the day, I did my job. It's over. After that, she says, God has it and the people have it. Afeni's exuberant revelation echoes her Panther years. For the first time since I've known her, I see who that young Afeni was. I see the power of her conviction in its full articulation. She says, I see Afeni find her purpose again, this time without anger, this time with humility, this time connected to God. This time she thinks before she acts. This time she's clear about what is right and what is wrong, about what is her responsibility and what is out of her control. Afeni is passionate again. She's high today, but not on crack cocaine. Why did she have to go there? Why did she have to go there? Let's continue. One of the big guys passes a fruit platter my way. I grab some pineapple chunks and a mango slice. What piece of paper are you talking about? I tried to catch up on all that has transpired at Amaru. I see they've been busy. What do you mean you always catch them at the end and show them a piece of paper? Contracts, Jasmine. I've become a firm believer in contracts. What? I say? Are you kidding me? I'm shocked. Is this the same woman who I dragged kicking and screaming to my lawyer's office in 1995 so we can have a legal and documented agreement about me producing her life story? Is this the same woman who sucked her teeth every time the great burden of signing her name arose? Is this the same woman I insisted accept checks from my production company to option the rights of her story? Ain't nobody doing my story but you, she used to tell me. I don't need some paper. I don't want your money either. Afeni, this is how it's done, I had to explain to her. This is how you protect yourself. I have a certain amount of time to get this project done. Then you can take it somewhere else. She didn't want to hear it then. Tupac was still alive and definitely running things, so she couldn't be bothered with paper and contracts. She knew she'd never screw me, so what was the point? She'd never leave us behind, me or my sister Monica, who interviewed Afeni extensively and wrote the treatment for our movie about her. Did you ever finish the movie? I don't know. Let's continue. Afeni would never leave us behind, so why did she need a contract? Now I listen to her espouse the virtues of having a contract, and I can't believe how savvy she's been. And her if you look at all of the things that she's done, like the marriage to Lumumba didn't have a contract. Possibly the one to Matula didn't have a contract. So a lot of what she went through, she did things on word and not necessarily on paper. But you enter into the world that her son is in, then, you're going to have to make it be known. She says, we went back and wrote every contract that Tupac hadn't done, she tells me. He had no contracts with producers, which means all of their money was still at Interscope waiting to be claimed. Collect interest, I add. Yes, being used by the record company. They knew these artists would never claim it because there was no paperwork, no contracts. If it hadn't been for Amaru and this child right here, she points to Molly, who turns a little pink, no one would have gotten paid. Molly remembers everything. She knows who produced what song, who sang on it, who was in the studio BSing when they recorded it, and who was really contributing. She remembered all of that stuff. And these people, these musicians and singers, would not have asked Tupac for a dime. They wouldn't have, and they didn't, because they loved Tupac. They just wanted to work with him. The record company knew that, and they took advantage of that. What they do on every album is just take money out of the artist's account. They take money and put it over to the side. She makes an imaginary pile of money with her hands and slides it to the side of the bed. I made it possible for these people in the music industry to get paid. We're going down like that. But there's a guy on Danny Boy, that's his name. He's on the internet present day saying he didn't get paid for some of the stuff he did. So I don't know. I know we weren't doing that. We aren't doing that to those people. I'm proud of that. We got those artists paid. Afeni flips an orange slice inside out and pulls the juicy meat out of the peel with her teeth. But then Molly points to her watch. It's time to go. I don't get Afeni all to myself anymore. Not for hours at a time, but I get what I can. I'd rather see her for half an hour living in glory than for 16 hours of pain. Life doesn't turn around if you can. Life does turn around if you can just wait it out. As Molly packs up Afeni's toiletries in the bathroom, the big guys call for a bellman. Afeni looks at me with tears in her eyes and says, we pay our taxes, Jasmine. I don't owe $6 million in taxes for 97, nor for 1998, 99, 2000, 01, 02, and neither does my son, okay? So I have these quiet victories. I don't owe nothing. Can you imagine that? She rises from the bed and hugs me again. I cannot thank you enough, she says in my ear, and God bless Jeff Joyner, her accountant, and my brother-in-law. They are packed up and gone within minutes, and I'm left in a room I didn't check into. For those who just joined us, we are reading chapter 9, okay, of Evolution of a Revolutionary. So she says, I sit on the bed among paper pages, and digest Afeni's new stories. Her enthusiasm lingers in the room like firefly glow. She was so happy today, so grateful to be thriving. She faces the monster music industry each day with nothing but a slingshot, and she emerges triumphant. She finished Tupac's project for him. She runs his companies, produces his films, releases his music, and publishes his books. She runs the Performing Arts Center erected in his name as he had instructed her. She is the CEO, I say to myself. The bed is a mess. It holds the only clues that Afeni was once here. I carry the ashtray to the bathroom and dump the butts into the toilet. I toss her empty Evian bottles into a nearby wastebasket. As I start to gather the newspaper pages strewn in a loose arc around the edges of the bedspread, I notice an article from today's Los Angeles Times. It is folded neatly and creased as if someone had just finished reading it. July 13th, 2002. Oh, look, it just passed. Did what we, 2023? So that's 21 years ago. Page B3 by Times writer Jennifer Cinco Kelleher. The first line reads, rap mogul Marion Suge Knight received notice this week from the Internal Revenue claiming he owes $6 million in personal income taxes, his attorney said Friday. That's where Afeni got the $6 million figure from. I had wondered why Afeni so specifically said Tupac didn't owe $6 million in taxes. The IRS notice adds to the financial turmoil surrounding the owner of the music label, the Row Records, formerly known as Death Row Records. It comes just months after Knight's former lawyer, David Kenner, was sentenced to 3 years probation in April after he admitted to hiding more than $4 million in earnings from the IRS. Well, Afeni should be proud of her small victories. So many artists lose their entire estate when they die, and so many go bankrupt. So many folk don't pay their taxes and lose everything to the IRS. Good job, Afeni. For someone who had never had money or cared about music, you had quite a lesson in capitalism and paying your way. The next time I'm in Atlanta, I keep my promise to Afeni and take my daughter to see her. She greets us on her front porch and reaches for me. I pass the American flag hanging from one of the wooden posts and take note. It's been there since 9/11. So it's not my first time seeing it. An American flag always catches my eye, but the irony of one hanging from the Shakur front porch is especially arresting. The idea that this woman, once labeled an enemy of the state, once accused of conspiracy to bomb Abercrombie and Finch, now exposed her patriotic solidarity so publicly reveals the danger of reducing complex personalities to a single label. People are layered. Before I knew the real reason for her to hang the American flag, I had my own theory. Don't we all have our own theories? Don't we all? I think the flag for Afeni represents the people, not necessarily the government, and the people for Afeni now went beyond the disenfranchised of Harlem and the Bronx. See, you theorizing again, just like you did in the beginning of the chapter, Jasmine. You was theorizing about Billy Garland, and see now? Mm-hmm. The people are those attacked. The people are those dead and gone. Afeni is always down with the underdog, and today the underdog is 9/11. She's not down with the terrorist murderers of Al-Qaeda. She sympathizes with the people of America. My theory, I discover, is a bit esoteric in comparison to Afeni's real reason for displaying the flag. Deeply moved by the loss of life in World Trade Center attack, she told me this story. Deliotti and Tuch, our auditors, were located in the World Trade Center on September 11th when the towers came down and they had to leave the building. They panicked, ran out of their offices, and then they remembered that they had left Tupac's stuff on the desk. Jasmine, they went back and got his stuff. Yes, they did. Got his stuff off the desk. She says, blinking desk. Afeni slapped her thigh. Then they left that building. God is such a good God. He works in all these ways and places. Can you imagine that? She looked at me. I thought about it. I thought about what they did. And I said I would never have done that. I was real humbled by that. They ran back and got all of Tupac's stuff. Now, as I pass Afeni's American flag, I think of those people in that office that ran back to get Tupac's papers. Every account of money going in and money going out, every last bit of proof of that man's work, they went back and got it. Their lives were spared. I think of them as I pass Afeni's flag for a moment. That is why it is hanging, so we don't forget. Imani, my daughter, acts shy at first, but Afeni leaves her alone. She speaks to her like she speaks to me. No baby talk or condescension. Eventually, Imani comes around. She hugs Afeni, asks her for some water, and while we're in the kitchen, Imani wonders if Afeni has cheese toast. We make her some, then we sit down in the kitchen while she eats it. Let's continue. That's right. Sorry, that right there, she nods towards Imani. Her job is to anchor you. She anchors her mother. She makes you know your place in the universe. That ain't an easy job, but they do that. That's what your children do. That's what mine did for me. That's a fact. That is a fact. I know Imani's listening intently, but I don't think she knows what anchor means. Without them, oh please, Afeni thinks for a moment, what I would have gone and done. Kids boomerang you back to sanity. My daughter kept me from going crazy. Imani devours the center of the bread, leaving the crust on her plate. When my son was blank, okay, they stopped. Afeni doesn't say the word killed. I never forget, I had another child standing there hurting just as bad as I was. I knew she needed me. I knew my first job was to my daughter. She was the living. She was the living. I could not just check out because he wasn't here anymore. Can I have more water? Imani asked. What do you say? What do you say? I prod. Please, Imani adds. Afeni's already up and getting it. My mommy has a baby brother in her tummy, Imani blurts out, sure to catch Afeni's attention. Yo, children be telling all your little business, bro. Afeni looks at to my surprise, and I shake my head no. She just knows I want one. I smile at Imani, who smirks at me like she knows something I don't. It'll be here. Yeah, sometimes the children know too. Sometimes they know before you know. It'll be here, Afeni says, returning with the water. We call the baby no it. As soon as the one God has for you moves to the front of the line, you know, you don't choose children, children choose you. The baby will be here exactly when that baby should be here. Ask once and leave it alone, never beg. But Imani's 4. I didn't want them to be too far apart, I protest. Like there's a plan, like there's anything I plan to do about it. Or is there? Ask once, she reiterates. At that moment, the front door bursts open and 3 big-eyed children rush into the kitchen. Nzinga, Malik, Afeni's grandchildren, and another Imani, Jamala's daughter, Afeni's grandniece. I met Afeni's Imani when she was only 2. Now she's 10. My little Imani, so now you got to call them little Imani and big Imani, you know what I mean? My little Imani meets their bigger Imani for the first time. Big Imani smiles down on my little Imani. I'm Imani too, she says proudly. My Imani appears skeptical for real. I say to her name is also Imani. My little one says, oh, not so sure she likes sharing the name. The kids snatch her up and take her downstairs to all their toys. The house feels light, buoyant with the aroma of toasted bread in the air. Wow, I say to Afeni, this goes by fast. It's like warp speed after you turn 30, huh? She laughs. 13 to 22 took forever, I add. It's all about acceptance. I'm wondering why she has this whole conversation, but then she gives us the Billy Garland one off of a theory. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. Let me continue for the sake of time. What time is it? Merciful Father, 10:24. It's all about acceptance, accepting time, accepting change. And change was a big one for me to accept because I could always feel it coming. She's thoughtful now, but not sad. The winds of change, I could always feel them, she says again. Before the change occurs, even I used to react to the winds because I would be thrown off by them. I felt out of control and didn't like that. Really? Based on his stories, let me stop. Let me continue here. Where am I? Now I know that when change is coming, I must be calm. I must be still instead of frantic. I visualize that tennis player in the backcourt. She plants down that foot and sways back and forth. She sways, but she's grounded. This is my evolutionary understanding of the matter. We flow through these winds of danger, distress, and confusion to be able to be sure-footed on the other side. What we must do now is do these things that we are duty-bound to do. Have you read Shogun? She looks at me directly. She asked me this before. Well, Shogun teaches the purest principle of martial arts, duty and honor. Accepting your duty and finding honor in doing it, she reminds me again. Duty-bound, Afeni rises. Let's go to the back to my room. I figure she needs a smoke by now. This is the time when you should have asked her some questions, Jasmine. I have to go soon. Daddy's making dinner, I say, walking down the hallway to her room. Afeni walks straight through the bedroom and out to the back porch and stops short of the screen railing. CNN flickers in the corner on mute, and we can hear the kids laughing from the basement beneath us. I grab her pack of Newports and light her from her lawn chair and join her at the railing. Are you smoking too out here? Thank you, baby, she says, lighting up. I know you have to go. I just needed to see your child. I know, that's why I brought her by, and I need to see you, she adds. That makes me want to cry, although I'm not sure why. I feel tight in my throat, so I don't respond. I just let Afeni do the talking, which was easy to do since she had something to say. I'm used to crying with Afeni. We've been through a lot of life together, so I don't know why I can't cry now. I guess I don't want to. I want to be happy right now and enjoy the kids, the pine trees, the smell of toast. Sometimes I feel like I hold her heart in my hands, and I must be very careful. I know Afeni's pain, but I know her joy too. I rely heavily also on my belief in the, who says this now? Somebody, they believe in the sacrifice of Christ, the other beauty of his sacrifice, the grace that flows from that. She says, who is talking? I think if it hadn't been for that one act, you don't know where humanity would be or human beings would be. And she says, thank God he did that one act. Who started talking? I believe it may be possible for us to be forgiven without having to do anything to have redemption except to say, God or God, can you help me? How easy is it to get God's attention? To me, that's the most beautiful of them all. They threw me left on this one, y'all. My apologies. I'm like, what in the world? We went into a whole sermon. I'm trying to figure out who is talking. Where are we? The redemption of the innocent blood that fell on the cross with all the stuff that the person who's this done in my life is the grace. Okay, I'm just going to assume that this is Afeni talking. So she's going into the Christian space. It's the grace of God that took the desire for cocaine out of her. Okay, she got herself into crack, but it was God who brought her out. God couldn't get her attention until he gave her the crack pipe. He did not give you this is the one thing. The Creator did not give you the crack pipe, Afeni. She said God didn't get my attention until he gave her the crack pipe. What? The sentence before she said she got herself into crack, but God who brought her out. And then the next sentence she says he didn't give her the attention till the Creator did not give you the crack pipe. We need to stop this. She says the only way her stupid, stubborn brain would get it. And these are not new lessons. Other people have been knowing this stuff, but she had to be brought to her knees. The Creator did not give you the crack pipe. See, this is what we need not to be out in the streets telling people. For the sake of time, y'all know it's past my bedtime. There is a long moment before I speak as I wait for the swell in my throat to go down. I hear you, Afeni, I finally say. You should have told her, Afeni, stop it. You know what I mean? She says, and I did hear her, as I hear my nana and my mother and my father, as I hear all the great teachers in my life that have pulled me aside out of earshot of classmates or fellow dancers to tell me something I needed to hear. I hear you, Afeni, like I hear my mother embrace your beauty, like I hear my father say you are more than a performer, Jasmine. You're a full human being. As I hear Jeffrey Holder, director of The Wiz, say, don't let any man take your spirit. Kevin Retardier, director of the Alvin Ailey Workshop Company, say, be consistent. Mary Barnett say, lift your eyes. I hear you, Afeni. Say, live life from here. Pick up from where I am now. I give my experience to you so you don't have to go down like I did to learn it. She says, I know you hear me, Jasmine, Afeni assures me. I just had to say it. I can't keep nothing heavy on my heart. You know, it's interesting how he goes to school. He knows Jada Pinkett longer, but the mother finds this kindred bond with Jasmine Guy more so than with Jada Pinkett. That's interesting. Although we know in present time Jada Pinkett has a totally different personality, but from that time. Remember when he played Piccolo on Different World? Um, I suppose maybe they meet then and they become these whatever they become, and the mother is more like even beyond his death. The mother is connected to Jasmine. That's interesting. But let me continue here. She says, I gather my child and walk the long driveway to my car. The grandbaby screamed goodbyes from the front porch and waved with passion. Oh, don't forget, Afeni runs behind me to the car. Sweet Honey in the Rock at the Wilshire Able on December the 7th. Call Dina, Afeni's music lawyer. She's getting the tickets and we're all going. You must come, Jasmine. Sweet Honey in the Rock. She hugs me and looks me in the eye. You must come. On the crisp December night, I felt so appreciative, so glad she invited me, particularly to this concert on his on whose night? On this night with her. The 5 women of Sweet Honey in the Rock were alive like fire, blue, red, orange, yellow, an explosion of beauty and soul. Each woman is so different. Yasaye Maria Barnell has deep chocolate, smooth, glowing skin with smiling eyes. She stands strong and grounded with high breasts and cheekbones reaching past her height. She sings lower than I heard any woman ever sing. Her voice is round and rhythmic as she holds the bottom. Aisha Khalil is like a bird, long-legged, far-reaching ibis. She dances as she sings, as if her body cannot speak from only one language. Her sister, Netanju Bolad Kassel, equals her stature. Like runway models, they are stunning and thin, but their powers transcends the Atlantic. At times, they seem to call back to Africa, and at other moments, they sing to us from the motherland instead of America. Sometimes it's hard to know what coast of Atlantic these sisters sing from. Carol Miller, the fourth, hold on, woman is warm and funky. Okay, that's a weird combination, but okay. Her golden caramel skin radiates joy, fun, joy, like someone on the verge of a party. Her face is bright, her features big, round, and expressive. I hear her sultry alto through the pulse of the background rhythms. I recognize her voice because I worked with Carol years ago in a show called Beehive at the Village Gate in New York. I played with her baby Jordan in the dressing room at the Gate Cellar. Now Jordan is a man. Bernice Johnson Reagan steps forward from the group and speaks to the audience. She's smart, political, funny, and wise, the founder of Sweet Honey in the Rock and keeper of the voice. Of this beautiful group of women, she says, I walk Sweet Honey in the Rock as a path, a discipline. I do not create the path which has been carried out by the living and dying of those who walked in it before me with their lives, but I make my own tracks on the mountainous roads. Sweet Honey is that way. It is that path. We're almost finished this chapter. Thank you so much for your time and patience. Bernice Johnson Reagan steps back a few steps to rejoin the arc of the other 4 women. As she starts to sing, a deep brown, willful tone reaches us from her gut. I have a revelation. This voice, the voice of Bernice Johnson Reagan, is Afeni's voice. If Afeni could sing, she would sing in the voice of Bernice Johnson Reagan. I know because Afeni sits to my left tonight, and I feel everything change when Reagan begins to sing. Afeni calls up her own voice and sings right along with Bernice Johnson Reagan. Their voices lock like praying hands desperate to find God. Afeni knows every word, every inflection Bernice Johnson Reagan delivers. He who believes in freedom cannot rest. He who believes in freedom cannot rest until it comes. In my ear to my left, I hear Afeni sing. She raises her hands towards Sweet Honey and sings through her pain and her triumphs. She sings through the death of her son until the killing of black men, black mothers' son is as important as the killing of white men and white mothers. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. She sings through the Panther years that what touches me most is that I have a chance to work with people, passing on to others that which was passed on to me. Through the healing of her daughter's spirit. To me, young people come first. They have the courage where we fail. Through realizing the dream of Tupac Amaru Shakur, performing arts center where little kids like young Tupac can go for artistic nourishment, is when the reins are in the hands of the young who dare to run against the storm, we who believe. The chorus swells and I close my eyes. I fill up with this call to freedom. I fill up until I feel the water rise in my eyes. I've come to a sacred place tonight with sweet honey in the rock, she says. She says she's been there before in church, listening to her father in theaters, watching Alvin Ailey in arenas with Anita Baker. She's grateful that she's here now. Afeni's the only voice she hears for a moment, singing in her left ear. She poses the next verse as if it were written just for her. It is her testimony. She says she's a woman who speaks in a voice, and she must be heard. At times, she can be quite difficult. She'll bow to no man's sword. This is Afeni. This song is written for her, as Afeni's story is written for me. At this moment, I'm grateful she has let me know her. I reach for her hand as she sings away, grab it to say thank you. Thank you for trusting. Thank you for falling, in front of her and for getting back up. Thank you for believing in her and that she could see what she could not see for herself. Thank you for inviting her tonight. She squeezes her hand back without looking her way and never drops a note of the song, You're Welcome. So that is the end of, actually, that's the end of the whole book. What in the world? Hold on, let me see what's going on here. Bibliography, 12 steps. It's the end of the whole book. Why did I not think that was the end of the whole book? Hold on, peoples. Oh, she got an index. That's the end of the book. What? Say what? Oh, she has a whole index because it said 80% red. It said 80% red, and so they did it. All right then. All right, peoples. Congratulations. We're at the end here, and that was that. Okay. So yeah. Let me know if you got any thoughts. That the way it ended, I guess it was getting climactic, but I didn't expect it to end like that. I think the amount of talking you did, and I said this for this whole chapter, I probably knew it was going to end intrinsically. That the amount of talking you did about Sweet Honey in the Rock, how was it not weird to you that you heard nothing about Billy Garland? And now here we are in 2023 hearing all about Billy Garland. I think he was intentionally left out of the storyline, but that is, I think, is a grave injustice because that is the reason why we are here reading this story right now. Because for her son's part of the situation, it was this missing element. Even if, like he said, if he was a deadbeat, at least the son would have known. If he wasn't there, the son would have known. It's different to know and versus not knowing, and you have this void and this longing. So this is wild. The book is done. I didn't expect that to be the last chapter, but it is. Let me know your thoughts. Did you learn anything along the way? That even for your own life, you know what I mean? Because I didn't just read this to be like, ooh, let me know all about Tupac. It's really just an illustration that we can take a look at someone who's willing to share the progression of their life from childhood onwards, and that we're able to look at, to the best of our ability, their mistakes and their triumph, and to look and identify the cycle, because life is really cyclical. The behaviors that formed initially and eventually became the things that held her back in life. You understand what I'm saying? And the same thing happens for us. Whatever we formulate as children based on the issues that may have arisen, the things that the obstacles, the parents, whatever, the relationship styles, those things inform our behavior all throughout our life. And until there's something that allows us to reflect, until we keep hitting up against the same wall, until we realize that, it's something internal, until we come to that moment, we're going to just keep repeating. You feel me? And we're going to look to blame everybody else. Is this person, is that person, is this person, that person. And so I'm drawn to this storyline because it offers for me an opportunity to prove some theories that I have as it relates to soulonomics, as it relates to healing, as it relates to the things that I've studied over the years. And essentially, before I read this book, there were some things, and I'll leave with this. There were some things that I heard when I was listening to Billy Garland that I was like, wait a minute. And so when you read Afeni's story, you see energetically, as again, and you can go back to the videos, energetically, his mother dying from an illegal abortion, and she being the person who would also have this type of abortion storyline in her lineage, it shows you that energetically she would be the portal, she would be the opening that his lineage came through. You understand? In this particular case of Tupac. And when they merged, he inherited a whole lot of things from both sides, right? And that's kind of what happens with us. We inherit from our mother and our father, and not only just how we look, how we walk, how we talk, but we also inherit energetic karma, right? And the blessing is having the opportunity to clean it up, right? Because you go through your life trying to get to the point where you could begin to clean up the negative things that you may inherit from those who came before you. Not having an opportunity to do so is so basically what I'm saying. If you have an opportunity to assess, and maybe your parents didn't give you negative karma, hallelujah, that's a beautiful thing if they didn't. But if they did, then it's our opportunity we have an opportunity to move through and fix it, break the negative chains of generational curses that could persist, and turn it around. So with that said, we want to thank the sister for sharing her story, for being as candid as she was willing to be at the time. Jasmine Guy for laboring for years to be able to gather all the information to present this. I know I quarreled a lot along the way, because now, we have more information as time went on, but I'm definitely grateful for this opportunity to give voice to this, to read, and to share my thoughts. So with that said, thank everybody for tuning in, and I'll see you again next time. One.